Welcome to our yin and yang practice for today. Um, I'm still feeling really drawn to kind of doing a lot of grounding work. So that's kind of how practice is going to flow today, is that our movements will be interspersed between the moments of quiet and yin. Just a blanket as my trusty prop today. And if you know you wish to have something else nearby or many other things nearby as supports for your practice, then please just have those with you so that you can take care of yourself. Beginning in a comfortable seat, whatever that means for your body in this moment. Closing the eyes. Maybe drawing a breath and letting it go as I just did. What does this day have to offer you? And maybe it just starts with a little bit of an acknowledgement for your commitment to practice, your willingness to set up a bit of sacred space for yourself within your humble abodes. And remembering that that option to do or not do any part of practice is always there for you. And perhaps finding a little bit of freedom and comfort in making those choices to do something a little bit varied if you end up doing so. And simply offering a few slow, perhaps slightly deeper breaths here as you gradually start to settle into your space. As you start to notice an inhale, maybe offer the label of in or inhale to yourself. And as you breathe out, perhaps saying out or exhale, just giving voice, giving label and acknowledgement to the parcels of breath as you settle in. And can you relax your face and jaw in this moment? Maybe give yourself a little bit of freedom to move the mouth around, stretch it out, release tension that might be hiding in there. I'm still working with this notion of slow and grounding. I'd just like to share an excerpt from February 1st entry in the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. He wrote, "Live slow enough, and there is only the beginning of time. Like the earth that carries us, the ground of our being moves so slowly we take it for granted. But if you should feel stalled, numb, or exhausted from the trials of your life, simply slow your thoughts to the pace of cracks widening. Slow your heart to the pace of the earth soaking up rain. And wait for the freshness of the beginning to greet you." So perhaps we can paint various parts of our practice today with this slowness and just feeling things gradually open and release through our bones, our tissues, our hearts, our minds. And before you bring your attention back into your space, can you just trace the existence of one more breath? Can you perhaps intentionally swallow and just feel this gradual little bit of unwinding through your throat, through your neck? And when it feels appropriate for you, start to flicker the eyes open. Lift the gaze a little bit and just allow your eyes to move through your space. Keep your head and your neck fairly stable. You don't have to move left to right explicitly. It could be that you're looking up and down or drawing little circles. What's within your immediate line of sight. And then let's just take this into a quick orienting, sweeping the gaze off to one side. You might feel the urge to blink a little more frequently after just doing those eye movements. Pardon me. And just take in that space of yours. Eventually settle your attention back towards center. And let's bring hands to knees, whether you're in cross-legged or maybe one or both legs are extended. Just reach in the arms and purposely creating this sense of length rather than bent elbows. Let's straighten those arms out and draw the shoulders down. Feel this gradual opening through the upper back, through the shoulders. And with an inhale, using the pressure of your hands against your body, pull the chest through the gate of your shoulders. Lift the gaze if it feels okay for the neck. And as you tumble into your next exhalation, start to push the body back. Keep the firm hold of hands to knees and slowly drop the chin in towards the chest. Hug the belly button in towards the spine. Looking for that same kind of sense of release through the upper body. And we're taking this slow. It's a seated cow cat. And sometimes we do this in rhythm with the breath. Here we're trying on just the various positions and just breathing and holding. Opening across the chest, lifting the gaze. And then when you're ready, slowly starting to send the spine back. Extend the arms further as you draw chin to chest, belly button to spine. And you'll simply oscillate between these two positions on your own, being curious about it. I know in my body right now, my upper back is a little bit stiff. Same thing with the shoulders. So this extended hold, this added bit of attention feels really nice right now. And maybe just letting yourself cycle through that cow and cat one more time. When you're ready to release, just let yourself release. Give those hands a little bit of a shake, let the arms move around, and take the legs out long if you still had them tucked underneath you. And we could do a little bit of a shoulder roll here. And just come to let the arms dangle to the side. Let's take one ear off towards the shoulder. Just a few breaths there. And slowly lift and gradually drop off to the other side. And then we'll let that go. Bring the head back to a neutral place. And let's turn the gaze over to one shoulder. So keeping the head level, doing that little rotation. Eyes open or closed, it doesn't matter. Come back towards your center and then take your gaze over to the other side. And then we'll release back to our center. Let's come into butterfly pose here. We're drawing the soles of the feet together, creating a little bit of a wider diamond shape. And we'll start with movement. So movement being perhaps a gentle swaying side to side. Maybe you'd prefer to do a bit of a Sufi circle. So intuitively guided. What does your body appreciate here? And there might be more of those tender moments where you hold and breathe. And then gradually switch. And when you feel your intuitive little movements have served a bit of an unwinding purpose in your tissues, explore the possibility of finding that passive hold, letting the spine begin to curl and round forward. The arms just hanging out wherever they're comfortable without trying to force yourself further or deeper into a butterfly or cobbler pose. And ideally, we invite the head to drop into the space in front of us, creating a little bit of extra length through the neck, through the vertebrae that comprise the spine. When you come to anchor yourself to that slow pace of breath, of being with earth, with gravity, and imagining, like Mark said, the cracks slowly opening. You can almost envision that, at least I can anyways, in the tissues of my body, and the bones gradually moving apart and coming together with this slow and intentional pace of our yin practice. Breathe, release, and be over and over again. When you feel the mind or the body starting to spiral into a place of resistance or distraction, can you acknowledge that, perhaps adjust subtly and attempt to come back into the posture in some way? Maybe it's just reminding yourself of the inhale and the exhale. And coming to dedicate 3 more breaths to your expression of butterfly. Whenever you're ready, taking that slow, precious time to exit your butterfly form. Being gentle, honoring any tender spaces and big releases of sensation as they fled through. And just invite your body into a rebound form that works best right now. Something that allows you to be still and just witness the body processing and integrating. We'll come to set ourselves up a little bit taller here. Bend into the knees and then lean back on the hands. So we'll do windshield wipers with the option to let the upper body rotate as well. But we'll start with just the lower half of the body moving side to side. And maybe this is enough for your hips and your back today, and you just stay with this familiar movement. But there is the option when you're ready to lean off to one side, free the lighter arm, and let yourself kind of sweep around. And then shift the weight of the body, anchor into that hand that was just floating, and take it to the other side. Just exploring this possibility of movement in varying forms. Maybe making note of where there might be a little bit of extra tenderness. I know I'm definitely witnessing that in my body. My right glute, right piriformis is way more tender than the left side. Starting to wrap up this windshield wiper type movement. Just making sure that you finish on the opposite side to where you started. Let the legs stretch out, and let's just point and flex through the feet here. And start to roll through the ankles. Just get some mobility going in those joints. A few times in each direction. And then we'll shake that off. So we're going to come over to hands and knees, do a little bit of tabletop to begin with. Finding the appropriate setup for yourself. We'll do a little slow moving hip circle in each direction before we come into a brief stay in overstepping dragon, as we call it, or deep dragon. So let's start by sliding the hips off to the left, far enough that you're aware of a slow tugging coming through the glutes, probably the outer edge of the leg, the hip as well. And just breathe into that sensation, keeping the hips angled out to the left side. Start to try and sit yourself back. So the hips are still pushing left, but you're gradually slipping the body back towards your heel, little by little, kind of like plucking your way through all the different layers of your gluteal tissues. The piriformis is in there too. IT band might get a little pluck as well, a little stringing. And when you feel your hips coming back towards the heels, pause in that little bit of a neutral spot for a moment, like you wanted to do child's pose, but we're going to stay higher. And then we'll come up on the right side a little bit quicker there. So we're back in our tabletop. Let's do one cow and cat. So inhale, let that belly reach for the ground, float your crown and your tail. And then exhale, thread the belly button through towards the spine as you round out the back. Drop the head, drop the tailbone. Release to that neutral spine. We'll take our slow hip off to the right. So sliding the hips out to the right, pause, just feel into that initial bit of stimulus. The intention is trying to get those potentially cranky tissues to unwind, release their hold for a little bit. Easier said than done sometimes. And we begin that slow journey, keeping the hips out to the right. Start to push the hips back little by little, again, like you're plucking through the various strings and layers of fiber through your glutes, trying to get them to loosen. Patience, lots of breath. And when you reach that point where your spine is almost neutral, your hips are back towards the heels, pause. Feel into that for a moment. And then sweep the body up on the left side. Return to your neutral of tabletop. One cow and cat. Return to that neutral of tabletop. And here we're going to step the left foot forward. Bringing the ankle firstly in alignment underneath the knee. And the idea is that we're coming into a lunge. So if that right knee is sensitive, take your blanket or flip the edge of your mat to give yourself some extra cushioning there. And with this particular deep dragon, we're going to bring the knee beyond the ankle. So we slowly lunge forward here, creating compression in the top of the foot, top of the ankle, and we're lengthening through the hip flexor of that right leg. So there's compression on the left side, extension in the right side. And if you wanted to, you could take that left hand and forearm and kind of wrap it around to brace the inside of the left foot if you wanted to, or you can just stay hands to either edge. I like doing a little bit of a wrapping. And then we settle into this place of mitigating sensation, using the breath. You might be aware of some tugging in the back of the leg, the heel, the Achilles. So be mindful of that. Maybe you need to push out a little bit. So retreat from the depth of the pose. And as intense as it may be, try to focus on the breath and just trust that we're not here for a huge amount of time, especially because of the intensity. Try not to grind your teeth. Yes, there is most likely a little influx of heat. Just breathe and be aware. See where you can soften a little bit more. As I said, just a little short stop here. So 3 more breaths to your deep dragon today. And then we're going to take our time as we push off. Come back to a little bit of a neutral. So you feel the flush of chi making its way through the foot, the ankle. You might sit up a little bit higher as I'm doing. Release the breath. And then we're going to try on a half saddle pose and just see how that goes. So what's going to happen here is that we'll start to bend into that right knee. Let the left leg extend in front of you. And the intention here is to sit back on the heel of the right foot or slide your buttocks off to the side and let that right leg bend behind you. And you might need to flipper the foot out, so turn it outwards so the pressure is a little less intense. So this is the foundation of half saddle, where we're now letting the left leg have its breath and its freedom, and we're creating a little bit of intensity through the right side of the body. And depending on knees, hips, feet, your half saddle could exist just exactly like this. And if that knee is popping up off the ground, that's okay. If you feel you need to add a cushion underneath it for a bit of extra support, that's totally fine too. If after a little bit of a stay here, you start to find this opening half saddle setup kind of neutral, you might choose to intensify it by beginning to lean back, walk the hands back, start to increase the sensation, the stimulation through hip, through quads, feet, many, many things. And there's lots of layers to this. You could go down to elbows. Some people can go all the way down to the ground. Once upon a time, I used to could, not today. We remember to breathe, always coming back to those principles of space. Thinking of the slowness, inviting that gradual unwinding, even if it's just for one exhale, you feel that slipping off. And to come out of this, taking your time. So it might be that you're all the way up and it's a slow rolling into your left side that just frees that right leg. Maybe you need to kind of wiggle and leverage yourself up. But we take the time to release that side. And either lean back into the hands, or maybe you take a temporary shavasana and just flatten yourself right out on your back for a few moments to let things process through. And quite possibly kind of oscillating between various levels of sensation physically and emotionally. Remember, that's part of the practice as well. We take these little journeys. And while the body is still integrating that first deep dragon and half saddle, we're going to switch it over to the other side. So let's lift up, reorient to tabletop to begin with. And we'll cycle through 3 cow and cat before we come into our deep dragon. So just letting yourself move at whatever pace, whatever depth feels supportive. When you're releasing out of that third one, making the motions to then step the right foot forward. Begin in that bit of a 90-90 setup. Cushioning the left knee if there's sensitivity there. And then we slowly go from knee over ankle to knee moving beyond the ankle. Stepping into our deep dragon. Supporting yourself however you can. And again, there's that option as you start to feel the extension in the back leg and you settle into the front leg with the compression, that maybe you take that right hand and wrap it around so the forearm and the hand kind of help brace you into the posture and give you something to focus on as we breathe. Again, the intention to create that compression at the top of the ankle, the opening at the back side of it into the Achilles. And we're not here for too long. We're also stretching through the hip flexors of that left leg. Those beautiful deep breaths to support you here. As intense as these two postures are coupled together, your body will thank you later. Try not to hold the intensity in your face and your jaw. And just 3 more breaths here. Just a quick little visit to our deep dragon today. Easing yourself out as that third breath trails off. Come to a bit of a neutral setup. Maybe you lift yourself a bit higher and just perch up on the thigh. And we'll start to slide ourselves back here. So we bend into that left knee. Work your way down as you stretch out through that right leg. And coming to take that left leg out to the side. And some people are better off with the foot turning in towards the buttocks. Others need to flipper the foot out. I'm an out turn kind of person. That's how my bones work in my body. And we revisit half saddle. Just making those little adjustments. And again, it's okay if that knee hovers above the ground. It's okay if you feel you need to give it a little bit of extra support with blanket. And again, this might be the existence of your half saddle because that's where your edge limits reside. So we just breathe. And just know that if things start to become a little bit neutral, the longer that you settle and you wish to explore that extra bit of intensity, then you can start to lean back, walk through the hands. Chin could be tucked to chest, or the head could fall back on the shoulders if it feels okay. Maybe walking back onto elbows, all the different layers. It's always exploring what's possible without forcing anything to happen. Keep returning to your breath. Seeing where else that you might be able to let go. Just 2 more breaths in your variation of half saddle. And then being super gentle with yourself as you start to dismantle the form. And the invitation is to come into a temporary pentacle or shavasana pose here as your rebound. So let the body stretch out on the ground. Maybe you take the legs wide and the arms wide for more of that pentacle 5-point star position. And let all the things go. Feeling into the slowness and the wonder of how our bodies process and gradually recalibrate to a sense of normal. And then from here, we'll draw the knees in towards the chest. Give ourselves a nice little hug and squeeze and entertain perhaps a little bit of rocking if that feels nice. And we'll let the body settle back towards center. Keep the left knee tucked in towards the chest. Wrap both hands around the knee or underneath it. And take the right leg up towards the sky. Flex the foot like you're trying to kick the ceiling. And we'll do a slow lower here. So begin by engaging the core, purposely flattening out the low back. And just see how this goes with a little breath at a time. Start to lower that engaged right leg down towards the ground, all the while keeping the back flat to the earth. And when you feel yourself start to lose that flat back, then release the leg a little more quickly down towards the ground and relax. And you'll bend into the knee of that right leg, draw the foot to the ground, and then release your left leg, foot to the ground. Pause. Just observe. And we'll then draw right knee in towards the chest, keeping it tucked in however you can. Take that left leg up towards the sky, flex into the foot. And we come back to that engagement, flatten out the back, maintain that, and little by little, lower the left leg. And when you start to lose that flat of the back, then lower the leg a little more quickly. Pause at the bottom, relax. And then slide the foot along the floor as you bend into the knee and release that right foot down. In our neutral spine, arms can be out to the side in a T. And we'll do one slow somatic twist to each side before we come into our Shavasana. Taking your attention to your right arm, you'll inhale, begin to float the right arm up, pointing towards the sky, the ceiling. and feel the weight of the arm. So the fullness of the shoulder blade pressing against the mat. Feel your feet pushing against the mat. As you come to your next exhale, engage through the core, push into the heels, and use that energy to now guide the right arm over towards the left as you roll and try to tap the hands together. And then we'll let that go softly. The body just rolls onto its back. We open up, pause, limited engagement, just feel. Same thing to the left side. So we'll inhale, reach that left arm up towards the ceiling. Feel the weight of it. So the shoulder blade is pressing firmly against the ground. Start to push into your heels a little bit, engage the core, and then we roll. Left arm reaching for the right one. And let it go as you return to your neutral spine. And at this point, you have all of the choices in front of you. You could stay as you are, you could stretch out, you could support yourself with blankets and bolsters, cover up, roll onto a side or your belly. What makes the most sense for you so that you can go into that deeper process of integration here. There might be a vast amount of sensations moving through at this point, especially if you're not accustomed to deeply releasing and stretching into the tissues of the spine and the hips as we did today. Giving yourself that permission to sink deeper and deeper into seek comfort in the rest and in the stillness. Appreciation for what is slow. In the words of Mark Nepo, live slow enough and there is only the beginning of time. Like the earth that carries us, the ground of our being moves so slowly we take it for granted. But if you should feel stalled, numb, or exhausted from the trials of your life, simply slow your thoughts to the pace of cracks widening. Slow your heart to the pace of the earth soaking up rain. And wait for the freshness of the beginning to greet you. This breath, this moment and nothing else. Just this. Beginning to sense into the earth below you, feeling into the way that you are being held and supported in your Shavasana. Taking a few deeper breaths. And then letting yourself move through your space in any way that feels right as you start to wake yourself up. Start to stretch and move again after a period of rest and moments of deeper release, with the intention of finding your way back to a point of sitting as you're ready. And we'll come to invite the hands to join together at the heart center as the spines realign themselves between heaven and earth. And just purposely taking the tips of your thumbs and rubbing them into the center of your chest, your sternum. Breathe into that connection for a moment. Reminding yourself that home resides within your heart. You carry it with you wherever you go. A place of truth and love and kindness for self and for others. And as we bring this practice to a close, gratitude for this day, this moment, and these opportunities to share practices together. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.